In January, Cambria Harris, daughter of Morgan Harris, one of 4 women killed by a serial killer, filed a human rights complaint against the PC and NDP government in Manitoba. Morgan's remains are believed to have ended up in the Prairie Green landfill. The complaint focuses on the Manitoba election at the center of the Conservative campaign. Do not search the landfill, saying it was not feasible. In February, Ryan Manaway-Cusick made headlines after he killed his partner Amanda Clearwater, their 3 kids Bethany, Javen, and Isabella, and his partner's niece Maya Grattan. Manaway-Cusick had a history of abusing drugs and alcohol. At one point, he was told by a judge to get his methamphetamine addiction under control. Manaway-Cusick is still awaiting his trial date. Big news came in March for the families of Morgan Harris and Mercedes Myron after a year of fighting to search the landfill for the remains of 2 women from Long Plain First Nation.
And it's going to be survivor and family-led going forward.
$40 million was announced for searching Prairie Green, with both the feds and the province committing half each. Rebecca Contois, Harris, and Myron, along with the still unidentified person given the name Mashkode Bijike Ikwe, or Buffalo Woman, were all killed by Jeremy Skibitsky in 2022. Also in March, a historic victory for some of the most vulnerable in Manitoba, a $530 million settlement from the province for children in the child welfare system over misappropriation of special allowances over a 14-year period. The settlement affecting roughly 30,000 kids in care between 2004 and 2019. Each could receive tens of thousands of dollars in compensation.
We were adamant that every cent has to go back to these kids.
And it was this past spring, Premier Wab Kinew went viral after a photo of him changing a tire was posted online. That picture turned into internet memes. From Kinew picking berries to making an Indian taco to gutting a moose and even milking a cow.
Makes you stay humble, right? Like, you're never going to be accused of acting too good.
The Premier even joined in on the laughs with his staff and family. May saw the start of the trial of serial killer Jeremy Skibitsky for Contois, Harris, Myron, and Buffalo Woman. He originally pleaded not guilty, but the day before the trial started, his lawyer switched to not criminally responsible due to mental illness. The trial went until mid-June with over a dozen witnesses, including neighbors, police officers, homeless shelter staff, and a psychiatrist for the Crown. Meanwhile, defense had a psychiatrist as their lone witness. As well, in June, the Manitoba NDP announced for the first time its plans for searching the landfill. It would roll out as a 5-phase approach and explained all the work that needed to be done even before a physical search could begin, including removing waste from above the target area and building a semi-permanent structure that would withstand all weather conditions. Then, on July 11, Chief Justice Glenn Joyal gave an oral verdict. Skibitsky was guilty of first-degree murder times 4, and Joyal later gave his written decision on August 28 after families and Manitobans alike had time to do victim impact statements. He would get life in prison with no chance of parole for 25 years to be served concurrent, Joyal saying it's the maximum sentence he can give under Canadian law.
It's now or never.
This past summer, the iconic Métis musician Ray St. Germain passed away at 83 years old. His wife Glory shared the news in late June, saying St. Germain had been dealing with Parkinson's disease. Just weeks before he passed, he was honored with the renaming of his childhood street. The summer also saw the first ever Miss Indigenous pageant take place, with 26 Indigenous women competing for the crown. While the pageant was held in Six Nations, Ontario, the winner, Jessica McKenzie, is a member of the Opaskwayak Cree Nation in northern Manitoba. The 30-year-old planned to use her platform to strengthen community ties. In September, Manitoba was hit with the death of Grand Chief Kathy Merrick of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs. Merrick collapsed on the steps of the courthouse as she was speaking to media about a court verdict, community saying she fought to her last breath for the people. Amongst her years of advocacy, Merrick was most known for her work near the end of her life, where she pushed to get the landfill search. Merrick was also honored with a day to lay in state, where thousands of people attended before she was taken home to Pimicikamak Cree Nation for a traditional burial. In October, 11 First Nations in northern Manitoba were amongst the first to start sounding the alarm about the backlog of Jordan's principal cases in the hands of the federal government. The Keewatin Tribal Council said at the time they had to bridge finance over $8 million, taking away from other critical services. They said Manitoba had some of the highest numbers of cases pending. November saw the passing of Justice Murray Sinclair at 73 years old. Sinclair was most known for leading the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. He was the first Indigenous person called to the bench in Manitoba. He also co-chaired the Aboriginal Justice Inquiry that focused on racism within policing and the justice system. Over his years of service, he had dozens of accolades, including an Order of Canada. While Sinclair was buried in a traditional Medewan funeral privately, there was a public memorial held in Winnipeg where the Prime Minister, Governor General, and many prominent Indigenous leaders attended.
But you look at pride, he brought pride back to our people without anybody realizing.
Also in November, Jason Kennedy from Bloodvein First Nation spoke out about a medical procedure that left him with the wrong leg amputated.
I was devastated. I was heartbroken.
The 48-year-old diabetic had surgery at Grace Hospital in late October after his right foot was in pain and bleeding. Medical staff told him he needed amputation due to a bone infection. But when he woke from surgery, the left leg was gone. A critical incident review is underway by the Winnipeg Regional Health Authority. In a statement, Manitoba's health minister said a review is investigating whether racial bias played a role. And in December, the physical search of the Prairie Green landfill began 2 years after the Harris and Myron families received devastating news their loved ones ended up there. The project's lead remained hopeful that they are in the right area as they have uncovered items with dates showing May 2022. The families were involved in the process, including choosing those on the front lines of the search. In total, there are 3 teams of 12 searchers that rotate shift work 6 days a week. Meanwhile, another daughter of Harris, Elle Harris, along with 2 other Indigenous women, filed a separate human rights complaint, this time saying the city of Winnipeg discriminated against the women when they chose not to search the landfill. The complaint has 18 reference points the city ignored. And that's the kind of year it's been for 2024 here in Manitoba. Thank you for welcoming APTN News into your lives. For many of you, it's during some of your tougher times. We are privileged to share your stories. Tiar Wheatle, APTN National News, Winnipeg.